I'm live. Yay, it worked. Okay, give me just a second because um, unbeknown to me, uh, Facebook dropped my connection and I had to totally reestablish a new connection. If you guys can see me and hear me, could you give me a thumbs up? Because at the moment I'm in here all by myself. I had to totally delete my studio from my Facebook group and totally reestablish it because I did not know that Facebook had done that to me. So we have, hopefully I have fixed the issue and my peeps can come on back in. So I do hope that they do. While we're waiting on them. Oh, yay. Okay. While we're waiting on everyone, let me just tell you that when you comment, if you could please put your name and then your comment because I can't see who is saying what. So, like when you type in the comments like, I really love the show, put your name like Liz and then your question or your comment. I really love the show. And that way I'll know who's saying what. Right now I just can see that it is a Facebook user. Okay, let's get started. And I'm so sorry. I apologize again for being so late getting started. But like I said, I didn't know that Facebook would totally erase my settings and I had to reestablish them. So fun times, but I got it done. Okay, so just like always, the number between 1 and 50 and comment, post it in the comment. But remember to put your name first and then your comment because I won't know who has whatever number unless you do that. So between 1 and 50, and I'm writing that number down now. And at the end of the show, someone is going to win a signed copy of my latest book, Overruled. I hope you guys have started reading it and that you're enjoying it. Give me a thumbs up or a heart if you love it so far. Okay, just a couple of quick reminders. October birthdays, we're getting ready to put all the October birthdays in a random draw. So be sure you find the pinned post in our group and write down, comment with your name and your birthday so that we'll do that at the end of the week. Also, Christmas cards. I'm letting you guys have first dibs on getting a Christmas card from me. So somewhere in the feed is the form to fill out if you want me to send you a Christmas card. There is a limited number, and you guys, of course, know that you always get things before anybody else, so because you're very special. So just comment with your fill out that form for me. And when you fill out the form where it says address, that doesn't mean email address. That means your physical address where I send the Christmas card to. And let's see. Oh, I have a release tomorrow, guys. My very first release with my new publishing company, Glenfinnan Heartbreaker, is being released tomorrow. And I'm calling it the Renovated Edition. Get it? See how I did that there? So that's tomorrow. I'm having a release party in the pub group. I'll post that link so you can get it to come on over there. We'll be playing games over there too. Alrighty, so I'm kind of waiting for someone to pop in, and I don't see them yet. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to start talking to our visiting author. And I am so excited to have her with us. Like I told you last month, I begged her for us to do one of my favorite books of hers. And it's the very first book of hers that I read. And that is her book, Shameless. I have gotten a whole lot of comments on this book from you guys, and I've just been so tickled that you are loving it as much as I loved it and am loving it. And, it's just like potato chips. So I read the first one, and now I'm going to have to start going through the whole series. Thanks very much, Cheryl. So, let us bring Miss Cheryl onto the line with us. And she'll be here in just a moment. Hey, Cheryl!
Hi! So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I was so thrilled to be invited to do the group project with you, with our On the Wild Side.
I know, that was so much fun. I was so happy to be a part of it.
That was just kind of like a very surreal moment to me to have my name alongside three authors that I have admired greatly.
Oh, it was a fun project. I really appreciated being a part of it.
I did too. So tell us just a little bit about yourself before we get started with questions. And I have a load of questions from our readers. So if you want to just tell us just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been writing full time for about 8 years now. I started my professional career as a nutritionist, but I've always been passionate about reading and books, and I've always loved romance, of course. I was always a big romance reader, and I dabbled in writing, creative writing, a little bit throughout the years in school and that sort of thing. So I was at a crossroads professionally when I had to make a decision about extending the lease on my business space, actually. And they wanted a 5-year commitment, and I had this desire to write, and the digital publishing world was changing. It was actually emerging at that time, I should say. And it was one of those moments where I had to make a life decision where, am I going to take the leap and really go for this? And that's what I did. I jumped in with both feet, and I decided to give it a try, and I'm so happy I did. I've never looked back.
And you were there at the perfect time, right? And you were there at the perfect time.
I was very fortunate. Yeah, I was very fortunate. Timing, they say, is everything, and I think that was certainly the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be extremely rude, but if you will please.
No, of course. No problem. I know.
I'm going to bring a third person online right now because she has something else to do. This is our, we're not important enough for her, so she has something else to do. So she was supposed to be here first before you and I got started. She has another commitment at 8. So if you'll just let our November author pop in just for a moment to tell us her book, and then we will just be back to us. I'm going to put you back down in the lounge, Cheryl.
Sounds good. No problem.
I'll bring you back, I promise. Hey!
Wow, I feel very special, and I'm so sorry.
That is okay. We have just had, well, you've had that kind of a week, but
Oh,
I had no idea that Facebook would do that. So we've got our connection reestablished now. So introduce yourself and tell everybody about your book.
I'll go super quick so you can get back to what you were doing. It's so rude of me. I'm Holly Mortimer. I am the author of your November book. Is that right, Lizabeth?
That is correct.
Right. And there's me, and there's the book that I'm offering up to you guys to talk about. I've titled my own subgenre called contemporary travel romance. And so Worlds Apart is the book that you will be able to read next month. And it is a book that is first in the series of 6 books, 5.5, 5 full length, 1 novella. And it's the story of 5 siblings who moved to Ireland after their mom passes away, who is Irish, and they inherit this on the brink of bankruptcy pub. And so the first book is the story of Brennan, who will be the person who runs the pub, and then the rest of the series follows the rest of the siblings and a cousin here or there. So if you love Ireland and you love the magic and mystery of Irish romance, yes, I've been to Ireland many times and fallen in love with being in love in Ireland. This is exactly an expression of that. And I'm excited to tell you that if you want to read it through Elizabeth this month or next month, you can read it for free.
That's right. She's making this book available to all of us free. And I will be sharing that link with you guys after the show. So I'm very excited about that. She didn't have to do that, but she wanted to do it for my readers because I told her how awesome you guys were.
She did. I've known you for a while now, and I hear all sorts of great things about your readers, and I observe all sorts of great things. So yeah, I'm excited. If anybody is reading it and they want to get in touch with me, they can totally find me. I don't write under a pen name. I am who I am. I am who I am all over the place. So I'm sure that either through Elizabeth or through a name search, you can find me and ask away. I do warn you that the second book in the series is part of my my actual lead magnet, so the one I always give away free. So you'll be able to get 1 and 2 or 1 and 1.5 and see what you think.
Excellent. But save your questions for our November meeting. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Holly.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, and I will see you guys throughout the month of November.
Gotcha. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Let's get Cheryl back with us. Hey, Cheryl.
Hi.
It has been a weird night.
Okay, no problem.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
That was not very Southern of me. That wasn't Southern hospitality to bring you
on. No worries. No worries. No problem at all.
Okay. So, you ready? Let's just jump into some questions.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, first question. How did you come up with the idea for this novel?
So I'm a huge country music fan. So this idea had been percolating in my head for some time. My teenage son actually is a huge traditional country fan that loves the traditional laws of country music. So he would forever be telling me these stories, even way back when, about all of, Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and Merle Haggard and all of these old country outlaws and the crazy things they used to do. And it was just, men behaving badly. And it kind of got the wheels turning in my head. And I think that's where the story was born. So I started to think about this country music singer with his demons, who is living in the spotlight and who is trying to navigate some challenging situations.
That's one of the things that I really love about your books is that you go there. What I mean by that is that you don't sugarcoat anything.
No.
He was an alcoholic.
Yes.
You got to see that, and
Yep.
you portrayed it so realistically.
Thank you.
I just admire you so much.
Thank you. It's funny because I got a degree in psychology, and everyone said to me, what are you going to do with that degree? And I honestly had no idea. And it's funny because now I'm using that every single day in terms of character development. And I feel like, okay, that's why I did that. That's why I went through that whole course of study, because I've always been fascinated with human behavior. Ever since I was like 15 years old, I knew I wanted to study psychology. I just didn't know why or where it would lead me. So it's kind of interesting because now I understand. I understand that's why I did that, and it's really, really helped me as a writer.
Well, that explains it. I study. I have certain writers that when I read your books, I study. Why did that make me feel that way?
Right.
Or what happened to lead up to this point that made me feel this way? And I've always had a connection of realistic to your books.
Good.
And that's exactly why.
Okay.
The behind, the reason why behind the feeling.
Yeah, that's I'm happy to hear you say that because I really try. Character development is my very favorite thing, and I really spend a lot of time kind of getting into the psyche, if you will, of the characters that I'm developing and figuring out what motivates them and why they do the things they do. So I'm really happy to hear you say that because it kind of validates, what I try to do in terms of developing characters. So that's nice.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. I found this novel emotion-packed and heart-wrenching for the majority of it, with everything Sierra and Trey went through throughout the novel from the start to finish. I agree. Did you find this novel difficult to write, and was it draining emotionally on you to write?
Well, thank you, first of all. It definitely was. It was kind of a roller coaster for me, just in terms of developing those characters and the emotional impact of some of those things that the characters went through. Obviously, the loss of a child and, alcoholism and the divorce and all of those things. It can be draining, especially when you're writing really emotional scenes like that. So, I tried to balance it with some of the lighter scenes. Yeah, it can be. And sometimes you just need to step away and, go for a walk or clear your mind or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a book like that. And my readers know which book I'm talking about. It just totally drained me. But my book, You Promised Me Forever. And it just took me on a little fairy chase. But so yes, it does. I can totally understand what you're talking about.
I think there we go.
Okay, how much research did you have to do for this novel?
Well, because I've been a country music fan for so long, I think I'd been preparing to write this book forever, without even realizing it. I think, it's all of the interviews that I watched over the years. It's all of the, articles that I read. And I think it's just a culmination of everything that I've learned about this industry, the country music industry, over the years that I've been a fan.
Do you live in Nashville?
Oh. No. I visited many times though, and I love it. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned the song "Reminds Me" in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Would Carrie Underwood and Brad Paisley be the ones to sing Sierra and Trey's song?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Can you sing the song for us?
Oh my goodness. Hear me sing.
Oh, come on.
That's me. I can get my son down here. He's pretty good, but and he can play the guitar.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Entertainer.
Don't say I don't bring it for my readers.
Funny.
If a movie was made of the book, who would you want to play Sierra and Trey?
Oh, so he's a little older now, but I love Toby Keith. I'm a huge Toby Keith fan, and in the movie he did Broken Bridges. When I watched his character, I saw so much of my character in him. So I think I would probably have to choose him as the male lead, even though he would be a little bit older. Just because I loved their interaction in the movie Broken Bridges, he and Kelly Preston, I thought they were so awesome together in that movie. I would have to say her as the female lead.
Excellent. What was your inspiration for the plot?
So it was one of those things that just kind of evolved from as I said, the country outlaws and some of the crazy things that they did. I just started to weave together in my mind this story of this broken country music this superstar who had been at the top of his game and who had fallen so far and so hard. And what would that look like? What would happen to somebody who had gone through that? And I thought a lot about his journey and what that would look like. So really, it just came from those old country music outlaws and some of the things that they did and some of the experiences they had. And a lot of them had experiences with alcoholism, and they were very upfront about that. And that's one of the things that I decided to tackle in the book, because I thought it was very authentic. Even some of our modern, country artists deal with that, and they're very upfront about it and very forthcoming about it. So I thought it would be really cool to incorporate that into a character's journey. Yeah.
In the book, you had a couple of songs. Do you have a background in music?
No, I do not. No. And that was the first time I'd ever tried doing anything like that. That was a little bit unusual for me. But it's interesting because my son, who's amazing on the guitar, I have often said to him, you know what, we should try writing a song. I can try doing the lyrics and you can write the music, and let's see how that goes. I think that would be so much fun to write a song. I think that would be so much fun to write a song. But no, I have never had any experience with that. I am not musically inclined at all. I just love music. I'm just passionate about it. So.
Well, you did a really good job with the song in the book.
Thank you.
I was trying in my head as I was reading, and I was trying to put it to a tune, like I would know. But, okay, Melissa said that this is a perfect book to focus on it for October, because October is Infant Pregnancy Loss Awareness Month.
Right.
So that's excellent. And someone, I don't know who said this, they didn't include their name. Have you thought about contacting, I guess, Carrie and Brad to sing your song?
I have not. No, that would be very cool, though. What's your writing process like? So usually I am a total pantser. I do not plot at all. I never have. For me, it's just a very organic, fluid process. I usually get the idea in my head maybe a week or two before I start writing a new book. And I'll write the blurb first so that I have an idea of what the conflict is in the book, where I'm starting and ending. And I will, over the course of a couple of weeks prior to when I start writing, I'll have a pretty good idea of who the characters are in my mind and what their conflict is, and how I want to develop that. It's a very organic process. I really let this is going to sound a little strange, but I let the characters speak to me. I let them evolve, through me. I really feel like I'm just telling the character's story, right? As a writer, and you get that. That's what it's like for me. It's just a very, very organic, fluid process. So no plotting or planning really for me.
Do you ever skip around, like, write the middle and then go back and write the beginning?
No, never. No, I keep it. For me, it's all about flow. So I need to just keep writing in a sequential order. And when I finish writing, I usually like to, write the first paragraph of the next chapter or the next scene so that I'm not jumping in with no starting point for my next writing session. And then I usually read the first, the last couple of pages that I wrote before I start writing so that it's fresh in my mind where I left off. But it's just a very organic process. But that's one of the things that I did early on that I'm really glad I did. Just write that one or two paragraphs, and I can just jump right back in the next day without sitting there thinking, oh, where am I going to go with this? What am I going to write today? So that made it a whole lot easier.
Let's see. What was the hardest scene of this book to write?
I would probably say in the beginning when Trey was really suffering depression. I really wanted to capture that. I really wanted to capture, that state of depression that he was in. And I wanted to do justice to the way that he was feeling and why that he was feeling that way, because I was just introducing him to readers. And I wanted them to be able to understand and sympathize with him without thinking that he was, self-centered and egotistical and selfish. So that was difficult to write because I wanted to make sure that I really captured, his internal struggle and what he was dealing with so that readers could get invested early on and really understand who he was and want to root for him throughout the story.
And you did that so well.
Oh, thank you.
And at the ending of the book, it felt I was fulfilled with the ending. I'll just say that.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It's like you wrapped everything up and just said,
thank you.
Sorry, I get sidetracked off of their questions because I want to talk to you. Was there anything you edited out of the book?
No. You know what? I actually do. I edit very little out, which is really, really strange. But it just seems that the way my writing flows, I edit very little out. Even when my editors go over it, we're not taking a lot of passages out. And when I reread it, before I send it off to my editors, it's really just cleaning it up a little bit. I don't delete a lot of scenes. I don't think I've ever, deleted a chapter or anything like that. It's more just little things, if anything.
And I know why somebody asked this because I always delete a whole lot of stuff out.
Do you?
And I usually share my deleted scenes with this group. Okay. So I know this person. I don't know their name. I would never want some of your deleted scenes. Are there people in your life that inspired any of the characters in the book?
Not specifically in my life, no. It came more from just the genre of music, I think, that I like. In terms of people in my life, no, not that specific book.
Did you cry on any of them?
It's funny because I don't recall if I did when I was originally writing the book. I reread the book very recently, and I did get teary-eyed a couple of times. There were a couple of scenes there where I felt kind of emotional rereading it, because it really back into, it was a very, for me, that book was an absolute labor of love. It is still to this day, it's my passion project. It really is one of my very favorite. It absolutely was, it was a tough book to write. It was an emotional book to write. And I get emotional when I reread it, in certain scenes, for sure.
Well, you certainly took us on a roller coaster ride anytime. I was screaming at the book when, and I knew that she was going to end up pregnant.
Yeah.
No, not now. And thank you for that.
Absolutely. I had to throw that in there.
Let's see. We have more. This is from Melissa. I'm glad you detailed that part, as there needs to be more awareness brought to mental health illness. Depression is such a serious thing that many people do not understand and do not take very seriously. I went through a period of depression, and people just thought I was being lazy. Let's see. Another, guys, don't forget to put your name, because I don't know who's saying this stuff. You're anonymous to me unless you put your name in the comment. Another reader said, I got teary-eyed too. That's why I just had to ask. Thank you for answering.
My pleasure.
Oh, so that must have been her question that I asked you.
Okay.
Okay. What came first, the plot or the characters?
The characters. Characters came first. At least Trey's character did. I knew he was going to be the foundation of the book. And then his issues started becoming apparent to me. More his character started to develop in my mind. And then I started to think about what kind of woman would it take to see a man through challenges like that. So that's how her character started to develop to me. As soon as his issues became apparent to me, then her character started to become, because I knew she would have to be a strong, supportive woman, but I also knew she would have to be the kind of woman who would have boundaries and would know when it was time to step back and get out of an unhealthy situation, which is why she was a counselor or therapist in the book, because she had to have those boundaries, and she had to know the difference between, being a supportive, loving spouse and being someone who, was enabling his behavior.
This book, too, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Cheryl's work, this book, these two characters are like the foundation of a couple of the rest of this series, and even the Next Generation series.
Yes.
And it's just watching them throughout the books, and even when their daughter is grown, and seeing her interact with them as older adults, it's just really great to read. And yeah, I love all those books.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do you hope your readers take away from this book?
From this particular book, I definitely wanted it to be a story of redemption. So I wanted people to see his journey as one. He was starting, being a broken man, and I wanted readers to see that redemption journey where he was able to move through all of the really hard stuff and get through the depression and face his addiction and forgive himself and learn to forgive himself for the mistakes that he'd made, so that they could forgive each other and develop a healthier, stronger relationship going forward. I love stories where I love stories of couples that are on the rocks, so to speak. I really love those journeys back to love, like not even second chance romance, but I love longtime couples. And I wrote another book about this because I love longtime couples who are struggling, because I find that so authentic. Because as women or as men, you know, if we've been in a long-term relationship, everybody knows that there's ups and downs to relationships, right? And I find it so much fun to write stories about that and develop characters around that and show like the angst and the difficulty in trying to make a great relationship last.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I love when authors include real life struggles and situations, whether to make the story more realistic and sometimes even bring awareness to them. What did you enjoy most about writing this book?
I think I enjoyed bringing the cast of characters to life. So it wasn't just about Trey and Sierra. I started bringing this cast of characters to life. And by the time I finished the story, I could see a whole family dynamic developing, and it wasn't just about the couple anymore. And that's when I realized this is going to be a series. And as it went on, I realized this is going to be a long series. There's a lot to this. There's a lot to these characters, a lot of stories that I really want to tell. So for me, it was just the evolution of that cast of characters. And really, I fell in love with those characters as I was writing that book and that series. I fell in love with them. So for me, I mean, I got to spend over 2 years writing those characters, and I loved every minute of it. It was just so much fun for me.
Was this your first series?
Yes, it was. Nashville Nights was my first series. Yes.
Awesome. Do you have your own true life love story?
I do actually. So it's kind of funny. My husband, when I was in university, I was working in a jewelry store at the local mall. My husband used to walk by, you know, all the time with friends. He would come in, we would chat. He became, a customer. There was nothing at that time. I think maybe I had a boyfriend, he had a girlfriend. It was just a friendly exchange between us. And probably a year or two later, we met up again. I was out at a pub with some girlfriends. He was there with some friends. And there was this awareness that we knew each other from somewhere and couldn't figure out where it was we knew each other from. But once we started talking, it became very apparent that, oh, I've met this person before. And when we met, we had a great connection. And it was like, oh my goodness, this person. And he actually made the comment, oh my gosh, you're my fantasy girl. From a year or two ago. So we talked that night on the phone for 3 hours, and that was like the beginning of our relationship.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, fate kind of put us back together again when we were both at a place in our lives where we could pursue a relationship. So it was kind of neat. And that was 24 years ago. Yeah.
Have you put that in any of your books?
No, I have not. I might one day though.
That's good. Do you have a book or plans to do a book of Trey and Ashley?
Perhaps, right now I am revisiting the country music scene and in a new series that I'm writing. And I had no intention of there being any crossover in that series, but it looks like there is going to be some crossovers. So you never know what might happen in the future. I think it's certainly a possibility that those characters could reemerge again.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here
I
first.
didn't totally abandon the whole country music world. I loved it too much. So I'm happy to be back there writing in that world again.
I would just love to see the dynamics that between Ashley and Trey. Both, and them having the twins,
Yes.
and then their breakup. But
Mhm.
it wouldn't have a happy ending.
Oh, that's right. And we're all about happy ever after, right?
So maybe it would have to be Ashley. Let's see. Are you going to write about Luke and Marissa?
I don't know if there will be any future book. There is a book about them, Ruthless, number 3 in the series, and Ashley. They all have their own books in the Nashville Nights series. All of those characters who were introduced in the first book. So yeah, they all have their own stories already in the Nashville Nights series.
And it's very good. What was your favorite part of this novel to write?
Sorry?
What was your favorite part of this novel to write?
My favorite part, there were so many that I enjoyed. But I think the turning point in the book was probably his father's birthday party, where they kind of had to finally face their attraction for one another. I mean, and they were still at that point where she was running away from it, and he was trying to force her to face it. I love any point in a book where, they're on a collision course, if you will. And I think that was kind of fun to write because that was a bit of a turning point in the story.
Right. Make a comment with your favorite parts of the book so that we can see, which were your favorite part. So go ahead and just write that in the comments for us. What are you currently reading?
What am I currently reading? I'm reading a book by Melissa Foster, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. I love Melissa Foster. She's one of my very favorite authors. She's so awesome.
Is it her last one?
It's not her last one. It's one of the Bayside. It's one of the Bayside books. I can't think of the name of it right now, but that's what I'm reading.
I enjoyed her book.
I love her books. I think she's awesome.
I have the whiskey. I can't remember it's the latest whiskey book I have on my iPad. I just haven't.
I love that series. That's awesome too.
Let's see. Do you have? Let's see. What's your go-to shower song?
My go-to shower song. Well, it's kind of funny, but we were talking about the that movie, Broken Bridges, that Toby Keith was in. So there's a song, and I don't think he ever released it on. I don't think he ever released it, but it's called Jackie Dawn Tucker, and it's such a fun song. And it's so upbeat, and it just puts me in a great mood every time I hear it. So it would have to be that one, Jackie Dawn Tucker by Toby Keith.
Do you have any hidden talents or any not so hidden talents?
Oh my gosh. I love baking. That's like a huge thing for me. It's not really a hidden talent because I bake all the time for everybody.
You have a favorite recipe?
I'm always giving it away. My grandmother taught me to bake when I was a little girl. It was one of those things where she was a typical farm wife, right? So she would bake, huge meals for everybody, or she would cook rather huge meals for everybody, and she would bake like for the entire week because she had a huge family as well. So I would, at 4 years old or whatever, be standing on a little step stool at the counter, and she would be, giving me a little bit of dough to work with. So we together used to make these little pastries, and it was from like a pie crust. And you'd roll it out, and it's like cinnamon and brown sugar and butter, and you kind of roll it up and slice them up. So kind of like little cinnamon rolls, but they're pastries. So that's kind of an old family favorite.
That's similar to what we used to make. I'm a farm girl too. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Right.
But, and my mom did wedding cakes. She did wedding cakes and catered parties and everything. And she tried her best to get me to conform to the cooking and the
Right.
baking, and it just wasn't happening for me. I would rather have been outside with the cows and the
Right.
dogs.
That's fun too.
I just totally let her down in that
Oh
area.
no.
I limped through with my cooking abilities.
Oh dear.
What is your favorite place to vacation?
That would probably have to be Costa Rica. We have been back there several times. My family loves the whole eco-tourism, just the wildlife there and just the whole experience. It's amazing. One of our favorite places to travel.
I'm going to stop you right there because I promised you I wouldn't keep you past 8 o'clock.
That's
We
okay.
have lots more questions though, but I'm going to, if you need to go.
Yeah, that's okay. No, we can.
Okay.
Sure.
Good. Let's see. What would be the title song about Cheryl Douglas? What would the title of a song? What would be the title of a song about Cheryl Douglas?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me think about that for a minute. It would have to be, it would have to be something related to, it'd have to be something related to positivity, mindset. I don't know. That's kind of my thing. I'm people who know me best will say I'm kind of obsessed with like the whole positive mindset thing, and anything related to me would probably have to be something like that. If Cheryl is a writer, I should be able to think of something. I can't, but it would have to be in that vein.
Well, that's me. I'm a better writer than I'm a better talker. So you can always edit yourself.
Like, you always go back and delete, right?
I can't delete what I say, and sometimes I have no filter.
We can't delete our words. That's right.
What's the weirdest thing in your handbag?
Oh gosh, the weirdest thing in my handbag. Oh gosh, it's probably, it's not so weird because I like to think I'm not the only one, but like the fuzzy lozenges. The bottom of your purse. I probably have some of those.
Totally do. I totally get you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite snack while writing?
My favorite snack used to be red licorice. I was obsessed with them. I can't buy them anymore. I can't bring them into the house anymore. It's my one weakness. So now it's almonds. It's almonds. It's a better alternative.
Do you like the wasabi almonds?
No, I'm not a spicy girl.
My husband loves those.
My husband loves the spicy stuff too, and I just can't. I can't go there. No.
I like the what is it? The sea salt. I like those.
Yeah, those are good.
If you have a chance to live anywhere in the world for a year while writing a book set in that place, where would it be?
Well, I have not visited there yet, so I can't say for sure, but I have heard wonderful things about it and have traveled around Belize. So I'm going to say that would probably be the spot. That's the one spot. It's on my list of places that I want to visit in the near future. So if I love it as much as I think I will, then I'm going to say Belize.
You could live there for a year.
I think so. I think I probably could.
How do you get your creativity flowing if you get stuck?
That's a good one. A lot of, I am all about going for a drive. I find that I get when I go for a drive in the country, I'm surrounded by farmland where I live. It's rural. I don't have to worry too much about traffic when I'm driving. So I can just kind of let my mind wander. Sometimes I put on some of my favorite country tunes, and that inspires me often because the thing I love most about country music is that they always tell a great story, right? So a lot of times that's where I get my inspiration from as well. Even when I'm thinking about a new book, I sometimes get my inspiration from songs. So I'm having a bit of a creative block, or I'm not sure where I want to go with a theme. I'll just hop in the car and drive for a little while and just let my mind wander.
Well, I have a very strange thing that I do that my readers know about this, but I jump in the shower.
Okay, that works too.
It always works for me.
What works for you?
Let's see. We have another question from Melissa. My favorite part was when Sierra found out she was pregnant because she was heartbroken that she thought she would never be able to have another child. Miracle baby, also known as a rainbow baby. And Karen said, Belize is beautiful but very poor country.
Yes.
What's the last picture you took on the phone?
It was a sunset, actually. We were up at our family cottage, and my husband and son love to fish, so I'm often out in the boat with them when they're fishing. So it was a sunset. We get westerly exposure and some great sunsets. So yeah, it was a sunset pic.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you like to read ebooks or paperbacks?
I read fiction, ebooks, and nonfiction paper books. I don't know why. I've always done that. I like nonfiction in paper format. I don't know why. I think maybe because I like to highlight and go back and reread some passages. I know I can do that with an ebook too, but for me, there's just something about having a paper copy of a nonfiction book in my hands.
Well, I've read so many on my iPad and phone now. I don't know how to hold that book anymore.
Oh, no, it's funny because over the years, I had accumulated a massive, even before the ebook, when I used to read romance in paper, paperbacks, I had this huge, because I was a voracious reader of romance, I had this huge collection. So my mother inherited the collection, and I think it's taking up all of the space under her bed right now. It's such a huge collection. So it's nice not to have to do that anymore. Look for places to store all those paperbacks.
Well, I have a whole stack of paperbacks right there that you can't see. In fact, I have a bookcase from the floor to the ceiling that is
my goodness, do you?
Paperbacks. I call them my friends.
Absolutely. That's what books are.
I know I can't get rid of my friends. So all through years, my kids will even kid me about well, your friends are getting in my way in that closet.
They're there to stay. It doesn't matter.
What are you going to do with your friends, Mom?
Yeah. They're not getting an eviction notice, so.
It's funny. My kids left home, but my book friends are still here.
They will never leave us. That's the nice thing, right?
Oh, I hope my kids are not watching this right now. Do you have anything on your desk for motivation, like pictures or quotes?
I am all about motivational quotes. I was telling you earlier, I don't actually write at my desk. I have a spot on my couch where I sit and write. So I don't have anything around me there, but I definitely have little things throughout my space, like my personal space, like whether it's my vanity table when I'm getting ready in the morning, I have two little things there because I'm all about motivational and uplifting positive saying. So yes, I definitely have them scattered throughout my space.
Well, I have two things. I'll show you. These are the two things I look at most often. And I know you can't. Can you read that? Is it backward?
Yeah, you got this. That's awesome.
One of them.
I love that.
And then this is the other. It's got a little typewriter. And on this side, can you read
okay.
Write without fear, edit without mercy.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
So those are the two things on my desk that I look at all the time.
Awesome.
Okay, what would readers be most surprised to know about you?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm so boring. I feel like I'm so normal, right? Like I don't think there's anything really like surprising about me. I feel like I'm just, you know, your run of the mill wife and soccer mom, and you know, all of that. I can't think of anything that unusual off the top of my head, actually.
Do you have a fun typo that you've done?
A fun typo? None that I can think of. No.
I had one time. I cannot remember what it was.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part of writing for you?
When you write so many books, I think I'm up to, I want to say about 66 now or something like that. I want everyone to be different and I want everyone to be unique. And I don't want to feel like I'm telling the same story over and over again. And sometimes in the romance genre, you know, we can feel that way because we feel like the conflicts sometimes are the same or they're similar. So I think my biggest challenge is keeping every book fresh and different and bringing something new to my readers.
Right. Do you have a favorite word?
Favorite word? Redemption. I would have to say those are my favorite stories to write.
Well, I'll have to tell you something about me.
Mm-hmm.
Writing, especially, I'm not so much this way now, but
Mm-hmm.
I would get stuck on a word
Mm-hmm.
in a book, and I would, whatever that word was, I would
Mm-hmm.
use it, you know,
Over and over.
thousands of times. But so I try not to do that
No.
much these days.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any writing buddies?
Locally, you mean people that I get like a writing group? Is that
Like,
yeah?
well, it didn't specify, but like
Okay.
I have a couple of author friends that
Yeah.
we'll jump on Facebook and go,
Right.
You're
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm
Yeah.
your writing buddy.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I do that. I do have people that I communicate with online, and I've done, you know, local groups with other writers. I've coordinated some, you know, meetup type of groups where I can get together with other fiction writers, and we can talk about, even though we don't write in the same genre, sometimes that's a good thing because we can bounce ideas off of each other and talk about, you know, challenges that are unique writers. So it's kind of fun to be able to do that because writers sometimes, you know, there's nothing like talking to another writer, right? Because you get it, you understand the struggle. So yeah, I do like to do that whenever possible.
I have a couple that we support each in getting our word count in.
Yeah.
We writing sprints through the day, and we'll check in, you know, like 1,000 words by this time.
Yes.
We'll check in, and it kind of motivates us to
That's
get
great.
our word
Yeah,
count every day.
that's a good idea.
Marisol says, I loved that he owned all of his mistakes.
Mm-hmm. For me, that's what it's all about. For a character, I love, like I said, I love the redemption stories. And for me, if there's not that closure at the end of a story where a character has, because I love characters who are flawed, and I love to read about characters who are flawed, and I love to write characters who are flawed, because let's face it, we're all flawed. Nobody is perfect. And I love like uncovering the layers, peeling back the layers and exposing, you know, all of their dirty little secrets and their flaws and all of their character you know, issues, all of the things. And I think that's what, you know, makes every character unique, is that like every person, you know, they have their own issues. So for me, it's a lot of fun to write about that, and definitely to see that growth by the end of the book where the character is owning their mistakes and recognizing where they went wrong and you know, hopefully starting on a new journey.
Well, let me just, like you said, you have over 60 books out now.
Yeah, 60 something. I lost count.
I want to say a name of one of your series, and I want you to
Okay.
tell us just a little bit about that series. Okay.
Okay.
So Nashville Nights, we know.
Mhm. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Next Generation.
Okay, so the Next Generation is the spin-off series from Nashville Nights, and those are the children of the characters, the main characters in the Nashville Nights series. So by the time I got to the end of that 8-book series, Nashville Nights, it wasn't over. It wasn't over for me, and it wasn't over for my readers. We were like, no, we need more. So I was ready to write more and they were ready to read more. So I realized that this is going to be a lengthy spin-off series. And it followed, so for each main couple in the Nashville Nights series, we followed their, I wrote a book about their children. And that ended up being a 10-book series, with the final 2 books in that series actually each containing 2 stories. So it actually ended up being like 12 stories. So that was a lot of fun for me because I loved being able to introduce the characters again, and just the relationship, the interaction between the parents and children and the family dynamic. That was so much fun. I had so much fun writing that.
Okay, the Starkist family.
Yes. So that was a fun one. My husband's family is Greek. So I had lots of fodder.
You had lots to draw from then.
I really did. I took that really from a lot of really interesting family dynamics that I've witnessed over the years. So that was my motivation for that series. That was a lot of fun to write too. And it really, like I said, that really kind of just stemmed from my own personal experience and just, being around a lot of Greek people over the years and observing the culture and, visiting there. And it just sort of evolved from there.
Tell a little bit about what happens in the series.
I'm sorry?
Tell us a little bit about what happens in the series.
So that started with, that was a billionaire series that started as a billionaire series. And he, Deacon, the main character in the first book, owned a women's lingerie company. And the heroine in the book was a model for him. And he took an interest. They had never actually met. And he took an interest after having seen her in his print catalog and realized this was someone that he wanted to get to know. And he was very persistent in pursuing her. And that was kind of the foundation of that series. And then the characters that followed in the series were his brothers, sisters, her best friend. So there was definitely a strong family dynamic in that book. And all of the books are standalone, but there's definitely a thread. With all of my books are standalone, but there's a real thread of family and friends sort of weaved throughout, so that if you read the series, the stories are a little bit more meaningful to you because you've been introduced to the characters in other books.
They're like potato chips.
Yeah.
And Deacon, for my readers, that if you've not read this book, Deacon is very swoon worthy. So just saying. Okay. And you didn't believe I really read all these, now did you?
That's awesome. And that's a freebie too. Deacon is a freebie if anybody wants to read it.
Okay, what about the Texas Titans?
Yeah, so Texas Titans was about 8 friends who owned, actually, I believe it started as 6 friends who owned a chain of sports bars in Texas. And they're kind of, business moguls. And they, of course, are not necessarily looking for their love interests, but love, finds them in a variety of different ways. So it's about their business challenges. It's about their strength of their friendship, which is really at the foundation of everything, and just their journey, of course, to finding love.
And you have some very good second chances, I think, in that series. Am I right?
Second chance?
Don't you have
I don't think that's
something else. Okay, what about mobiles?
I'm sorry, Music City Moguls. So that is also set in the world of Nashville. It's not necessarily country music artists. It started with a manager. This is another addiction story, actually. Only she, in the first book, Stone Cold, the heroine is the one with the addiction, a drug addiction. And that was a really, really gut-wrenching, emotional book for me to write. That took me on a lot of because there was some addiction, there was some abuse, she went on a real journey, and there was some betrayal in that book that had to be overcome as well. He was a manager in the country music world, so he was very, kind of an iconic figure, very well respected and feared, almost. And he was the type who could make or break her, the heroine, and she betrayed him. So there was a lot of animosity between them. So they had to figure out how to find their way back from that, and she had to figure out how to heal herself. So that was the start of that series, and then it evolved from there, again with kind of their siblings and friends, and establishing that connection.
That was that. Yeah. It was a very. That's one that you need tissues with. The Steele brothers.
Oh, I had so much fun writing that. So the Steele brothers are 6 brothers, and it starts. This was, I think I mentioned this story earlier, because it's a love on the rocks story, where it's a couple who's been married for a long time, and they've just drifted apart. It's not that they don't love each other anymore. It's just that they're struggling. They have teenage sons. They've been married a long time, and they're just struggling to still have that connection. And she asks him to move out, and they have to figure out how to navigate their way through life at this different stage. So that's the foundation of the series. That's the first book. That's Riker and Mackenzie. And I loved that story so much. That was one of my favorite stories to write, because it was kind of real, and it was kind of raw, and I felt like, readers could connect to the story, especially those of us who have been in long-term relationships. So then the subsequent stories in the book were all Riker's brothers. So again, really, really strong family connection there.
Vista Falls.
Yeah, Vista Falls is a little sweeter. It's my small town romance, which I love. It's a little bit sweeter than some of my other stories, though. So it's my first foray into a small fictional town, which was so much fun, because I really love to read books like that, the small town romance, because then you get to bring in, some colorful characters, and you get to really create that small town essence, that I think a lot of people really, really love. So that's what Vista Falls is. It starts off again with a second chance love story about a couple who actually, she got pregnant when she was a teenager, and they made the difficult decision to put the baby up for adoption. And then they went their there was a lot of animosity over the decision, and they went their separate ways. And they're both successful later in life, and come back together in their hometown to figure out how to cope with this decision that they made. And they realize, of course, that they still have feelings for each other. So that's where that series starts. And then it follows, brothers and best friends, and throughout the series in this small town fictional world.
Summer Rush.
Sorry?
Summer Rush.
Okay, so I'm a huge baseball fan, as well as being a huge country music fan. So I knew at some point in my career I would have to write a baseball series. So Summer Rush is... that's the start of the baseball series, and the heroine in that is a jaded character. She has been she's been hurt, by men in the past, and she doesn't want to trust anybody. And she certainly doesn't want to trust a baseball player who has a reputation as being a womanizer and this larger than life character. That's the last kind of man she would ever want to trust. But she, of course, finds herself falling for him. And, in that series, there's the baseball element as well as close friendships amongst the teammates.
And the exes.
Oh, the exes. So that was, those are novellas, and they are a little bit steamier than any of my other stuff. And that's all about second chance romance. And I had so much fun writing those because novellas are different to write, right? Because you don't have as much time to really develop and dive into. So you have to be really succinct. There can't be anything else in there that doesn't, move the story forward. So second chance romance is one of my favorite things to write, and novellas were a really fun diversion for me. And that actually worked out to be a pretty long series for me. There's about 8 books in that series. So that was a lot of fun.
So have I missed any? Have I missed any series? Did I get them all?
I think so. I think you got them all. Yeah. And that was good trivia for me because it's been a while since I've written some of them.
Sorry, I was hoping to catch you.
That was good.
So what was your latest release?
Okay, so I'm back in the country music world now. So I just released Bad Habits, which is the first book in the Nashville Outlaw series. And that one is written first person, and that's about 2 best friends falling in love. And he's a country music superstar. She's his backup singer. They've been best friends for 5 years. They spend all of their time together. They're on the road together. They've loved each other as best friends, but she sees the kind of character he is. And he's not a bad guy. He's living the life, and he's having a great time doing it. And he's lived that kind of lifestyle on the road, and she's observed all of this. So he's not someone that she would trust in a relationship or trust with her heart, but he's her best friend. She would trust him with her life type of thing. But once he realizes that he has feelings for her and shares this with her, she's very apprehensive about, and there's also the risk to their friendship.
What's coming up next for you?
So Dirty Mind is the next release in that series, in the Nashville Outlaw series, and that's going to be out November the 13th. And that is the heroine in the first book, Charlie. That is the story of her sister, Cece, and she gets her very own country music superstar. And he actually has a bad history with relationships. He's been divorced, he's been engaged, he's become a bit of a mockery in the country music world because he just cannot maintain a relationship. And all of his breakups have been very public and very embarrassing, and he just does not want to go there again. But of course, he meets this amazing woman, and he just can't seem to resist her. So,
of course. So, can you tell us? Give us any hints or tell us what series you might be thinking of in the future?
You know what? I am probably going to be committed to this series that I'm working on now. I'm just getting ready to release the second book in this series right now. So I'm probably going to be committed to this for about 6 books, I think. So I'm going to be invested in this one for a little while longer. I haven't thought any further ahead than this series, though.
Right. We're enjoying them greatly.
Awesome.
And when I think I had read your first book, I think in 2012.
Okay.
And you probably don't remember this, but when I started commenting to you as a reader on Facebook, just telling you how much I enjoyed your books.
Yeah, I remember our early interactions. Yeah.
And then when I started writing myself in 2000, I published my first book in 2014.
Right.
Like I don't know what you thought of me at the time, but I just felt like I needed to tell you.
I love that.
This poor woman, she actually listened to me when I would just say, I released my first book today, or and she would, great comments, and I just know she was
Oh,
just shaking her head.
oh no.
But you actually listened, and I do appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that we've, been able to develop this relationship. And I love to watch your journey as well. That's been really, really cool. And I'm so happy for your success as well.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was wonderful being in this project.
Oh, so much
So
fun.
thank you for that.
So
And thank
happy.
you for being here with us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. I had so much fun.
I have enjoyed it very much.
Me too.
And
Thank you.
I know my readers have too. We've
Thank
gotten
you.
a lot of response to you and to your book.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for stopping by.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It was awesome.
And we'll be talking later.
We will. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Okay, guys. How was our book club with Cheryl? I just had a great time talking to her. So let's announce our number. Shall we do that and see who won? And let me just scroll back through and see. Has everybody commented with a number? I'll give you just a couple more minutes if you want to go ahead. And if you have not commented with a number, I'll give you just a couple of minutes to do that now. And then I'll go ahead and announce the winner. Let me remind you again about October birthdays. If your birthday is in October, find that pin post and put your name in the comments so that you can be in the running for our October birthday prize, which is a card from me, and it is a $5 Amazon gift card. So if you're October baby, put it down. Just a reminder about Christmas card. And I was looking at our Christmas cards from last year. So they're kind of along the not your typical Christmas card, but still tasteful. So find the form in the feed to if you'd like for me to send you a Christmas card. And remember my release tomorrow, Heartbreaker, is being released by Glenn Finian tomorrow, the renovated edition. And so let me go ahead. I don't see any other numbers. So the number that I wrote down is, see that? Is 39. See that? And I think that means the winner is Shannon Bay. So congratulations, Shannon. I'll message you shortly and get your info to send you a signed copy of my latest release, Overruled. So if anyone has anything else, questions, comments, or whatever, we will, I'll have all the links up for our November book by Holly Mortimer. It's Worlds Apart. She is going to give me a link so that we can so that you can get a free copy of that book. So she's doing that special for my readers for this group. So I'll put that in the feed as well as on our website readers group page. Okay? So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be back next month for our book club. So get busy reading Holly's book, and also I'll be in Myrtle Beach on November the 8th at a book signing at the Book Warehouse, and I'll be there with 9 or 10 other authors, and I'm going to be doing some lives, Facebook lives, while I'm there. So it's a weekend retreat that we're going to be doing a signing at as well. So look forward to seeing what all we get into that weekend. Kind of scared, but so that's all I have for you tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again.